All right, everybody, welcome. I'm going to have to do a lot of projecting, so hopefully you can hear me, but grab a seat if there are any left. And welcome to the first Matronage Salon at this year's Future Fair. I'm so happy to be here. As you might imagine, I wanted to create an environment of as if you're in your own living room, which I think is the best way to view and appreciate art. And this is certainly an unusual environment. If you've been to a couple of the fairs, this type of situation doesn't appear that often. So I wanted it to be sort of a refuge for people to come to sit down with their friends, read a book, that sort of thing. I'm Hall W. Rockefeller. I'm the founder of Less Than Half. Less Than Half is an online advisory and education platform dedicated to bringing women into the art market as collectors and supporters of women artists. Of course, this philosophy has to have some special vocabulary attached to it because it's not the traditional type of art buyer. So, of course, we're all familiar with the word patron and patronage. So that word comes from the Latin pater, for father. So it is a gendered word. So trying to introduce a new word, matron, is essential to define who this type of collector is. So we have 3 talks, 4:30 every day. Thought I would start with the basics, why and how to collect the work of women artists. And I'm so glad to be joined by 2 amazing, if I may call you, matrons of the arts, gallerists who represent women, and I'm just so pleased that we can be here and talk about this subject.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So first we have Cierra Britton of Cierra Britton Gallery, who represents women and femmes of color, and then the first of that kind, and Millie Jason Foster, who runs Gillian Jason Gallery in the UK, which is the only gallery in the UK to represent women artists. So we've got two onlys, two. I don't want to say outliers because I think this is where the culture is going. But two people on the vanguard. I think you're the only ones now, but into the future, people will understand that it's the way to go.
For sure.
So I'd love for you both to introduce yourselves, talk about your gallery, and then we'll just start having a conversation. I wanted this to be more of a less of a panel, less of an interview, and more of a conversation that anyone is able to pop out a question. We can create an environment that really feels like what a salon would feel like. So you go ahead, Cierra.
Hi, so nice to meet you all. Thank you for coming. I'm Cierra Britton. I'm the founder and director of Cierra Britton Gallery, which is New York's first gallery dedicated to representing women and femmes of color. I have had my gallery since 2021 and I'm 27. So really just learning as I go from all the amazing people that I look up to in this industry, amazing artists. And yeah, we're a mission-based gallery and I have a passion for supporting minorities, women, femmes, non-binary people. We have often been an afterthought in the art market for many generations, and I don't want to be the first and the only. I really want it to become a norm for my community to have our space in this industry. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Millie Jason Foster. I'm the director of Gillian Jason Gallery. We opened in 2019 and had our first space in 2021 in central London. The gallery is named after my grandmother, who was a pioneering art dealer in modern British art in the 80s and 90s. So when we reopened, we wanted to bring that idea into the realm of today. So it was a passion of mine to solely champion art by women. And we're the first gallery in the UK to be doing that. So very similar story. I can't really believe that in 2019 we are the first. I'm happy to be waving that flag, but I hope there'll be more to come.
And I think starting with this question about why was that need? Why did you perceive there to be a need? I think you touched on it. We both touched on it, but just to throw out some of the statistics, because I think numbers do a really good job of, they're not the only thing, but they quickly communicate that there is a need. It's 15% of the collections of U.S. museums are works by women artists. 3% of the auction market. 0.1% of the auction market is Black women artists. That's 0.1. I've got these statistics up here if you want to double check. But clearly, there's a need for spaces like this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for us in the UK, it's 65% of students at art school are female identifying, and then when you get into the representation market, it completely flips on its head. 65% roughly of represented artists in the UK are men. So when it came to opening the space, my background's in investment banking, which is also very male dominated. It was really a no-brainer for me. I'm one of 5 sisters. We're a big female presence in our family. And I could see that the market was truly uneven. Only last year, speaking of facts as well, only last year did the Royal Academy, the oldest British institution, 250 years old, put on their first ever female retrospective, which is mad in terms of history. So
that was Marina Abramovich,
and that was
right?
Marina Abramovich. And they've had their second one this year with Angelica Kaufman, an extraordinary 19th century painter. But what we're really aiming to do, and I'm sure Cierra you'll resonate with this as well, is to provide a space that creates a platform to have these discussions. It's not just about wanting to provide a safe space for marginalized voices, but it's also about providing a space to talk about the fact that actually there are brilliant women artists who need to be recognized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that you touched on the safe space part, because that is another part of why I opened my gallery. It can be a dangerous space for women and women of color in the art world in many ways. We've seen a lot of misrepresentation. We've seen a lot of narratives be told of a certain community, but not by that community. Mm-hmm. Even thinking about, I went to art school, and a lot of the time I had to do my own research to find Black women artists throughout history, because when you're going to museums, like huge museums in New York that people will take their classes on school field trips for, you're going there to learn education, but you're not really seeing yourself. And so the idea when you leave that space, for me at least, is, oh, my people didn't exist when the great Renaissance painters were making this work, because there are no Black people shown in these paintings except for like slaves and servants. So as a child, if you're going with your 5th grade school for learning purposes, you're learning that you're not a part of the narrative. And that's obviously incorrect. We've existed since the beginning of time. So really having to dig for my own research was just a testament to what the education system is showing and what it's not showing. And I really wanted to change up the conversation and show, like you said, not only are there artists, women artists and femme artists to support, but they exist and have existed for a very long time. It's just not taught on a wide scale the way it should be.
No, the education element is so essential, and it's definitely I mean, if you read the Matronage Manifesto, it's right there. The idea that if you are a collector of artists, of women artists, of artists of color, of marginalized groups, you have a duty to maintain archives, to make sure that after that artist, if they're a contemporary artist, is no longer living, that their legacy can continue, so that scholars have a place to learn about their work, so that you can have someone come in and write a biography. If you look at the landscape of artist biographies that come out every year, so very few are about women artists. I would say close to none are about women artists of color. And if books that are about women artists of color are generally written by the artists themselves. So there's a book on Faith Ringgold. She wrote it. There's a book that just came out, Barbara Chase Rubu. She wrote it. So
that's a great one too.
It is great. But once a scholar finds meaning and importance to tell a story, that's when an artist has sort of transcended into a space that that's history.
Exactly.
And we need that. And there's just collecting, make sure that you're archiving and keeping, maintaining that so that it can be part of history.
Yeah, it's a really good point. We primarily over the last 2 years have worked with a lot of emerging female artists. And right from the very beginning, I mean, we've taken artists from art school. It's really important to document their work, because we now work with artists' estates as well. And, the questions are, where are your works? I'm not sure. Some gallerist sold it and they never gave me the names. Right. How much did you sell for? I'm not sure. So it's really important right from the very beginning that you not only document the works, the transition of their career, but also, we write a catalogue with every exhibition that we put on, because actually the intellectual narrative of what these female artists are saying, whether it's feminist focused or not, is just really important to create a foundation for someone to propel forwards.
Right.
Yeah.
So this, my philosophy of matronage is this whole sort of holistic approach. So writing material around the shows so that there's a lasting vestige of the show. Of course, that to me is matronage. How does your gallery think more widely beyond just the commercial element of buying and selling work?
Yeah, so one of the pillars of my gallery is community. I would be in a very different space if I didn't have community behind me to pursue this mission of holding space for, representing, and providing safe space for women of color and femmes. And it's one of the main ingredients as to why I'm able to do this at such a young age. Collaboration and support of other women dealers and artists are also part of my model. And Abigail Ogilvy is here. We actually collaborated on an exhibit this past February in her Los Angeles space, which afforded me to be able to show in Los Angeles for the first time. And it just was the perfect example of what community looks like, where we are both entrepreneurs. We run different programs, but we came together to support women during Black History Month and Women's History Month. The show started in February and went into March. And it was a huge success, but it's also very untraditional to collaborate. The art world has been known to be very cutthroat, very competitive. And it's like every dealer for themselves. In the past, that's been the norm, but things are changing because we need to think about sustainability. We need to think about what is the future for these galleries and these artists going to look like if we're in that limited mindset. So really opening it up to a communal mindset. And it takes more than just me, this one person, to pursue this mission to support these artists and create space for them. I think that's one of the main ways that we're practicing. Matronage.
Right.
Yeah.
When I think about how I was conceiving of Less Than Half as, of course, but the initial impulse is to directly support women artists. But I want this to be a movement. I want this to be a generational change. So I knew that I couldn't just be an organization that was helping women individually. I had to really use education as a way to create a whole, almost army of women who were then each of them individually helping artists. So that idea that it's not just it's about maximizing the exposure and telling the message to as many people as possible on every coast and every state.
Yes.
I totally agree with that, and more to both of your points, it's something that shines through is the fact that it's about putting the artist first rather than the gallery or the dealer first. It's about supporting the community of women that we want to work with and champion. So that's why I think your idea of collaboration really rings true, because it's beyond us. We're providing the platform, and then it's about how far can we take these extraordinary artists. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we forget. I mean, I don't know how we forget, but we did forget that this whole thing doesn't exist without artists.
Exactly.
It just doesn't.
People
exist.
do forget that though, which
They
is crazy.
do.
It's like I can't make any of these works on the wall.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
But I think that speaks to just mindset of, are you working to be transactional, or are you working to be a part of this historical moment? Because I think this is a new renaissance taking place right now. We see a lot of new practices. My gallery is a pop-up model. I don't have a permanent space. So we pop up primarily in New York, in Dumbo, and in Lower East Side. But this year, 2024, is the first time I'm showing outside of New York, where LA was the first show of the year. And I'm showing in London for the first time in 2 weeks. Because when we think about mission and community, New York is not the only space that needs a platform for women of color and femmes of color. There are many spaces, I mean, the whole world, when we think about not just the art market, but that's a huge part of it. But for example, the Venice Biennale, not this one, but the previous one, Simone Lee was the first Black American woman to represent the American Pavilion. And that was 2 years ago. Like, so you mean to tell me before 2022, no Black women were able to represent America at the Venice Biennale? So it's a global issue that's taking place. And when I think about carrying out a mission, New York is great, and I love New York, and I will be here for a long time. But there's so many other communities that resonate with this mission and have amazing artists that have something to say and something to add to the dialogue of the arts right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think geographically, during the pandemic, I started interviewing women artists from around the country. And, first it was, well, how do I travel without traveling when we're all under, in lockdown? But it very quickly became obvious to me that there was a feminist reason for doing it, that women have, stereotypically have a lot more care responsibilities, not just for children, but also for aging parents. It's like the average person taking care of their aging parents is a 49-year-old woman with another job, with a full-time job. So it does not end with childcare. Artists' daughters are also very much an identity. And these women have, it's a luxury to be able to move to New York. It's a luxury to be able to go from wherever you're from and rent a studio in New York. And we do miss out by just focusing on New York City.
For sure.
So, yeah.
I agree. But I think there's a lot to be said about cross-pollination and just finding different spaces around the world that you can help your artists reach. So, we're a London gallery, but the reason we're in New York is we're bringing two artists for the first time, one from Spain and one from the UK, to New York, because it's such an important part of their career growth as well. So it's all about being able to find these spaces to pop up and introduce the best of art by women to different scenes. Yeah.
So the billing for this conversation was why and how to collect the work of women artists. Mm-hmm. So I would love just to, really basic, how do you start? How do you find a great woman artist to invest in or to buy?
So it's not easy. Unfortunately, you can't just go to any old gallery in Chelsea and see many women artists exhibited. There are some, but if you go to 50 galleries in New York, maybe 8 or 9 of them will have women or non-binary people exhibiting in the space. So you do have to do some digging, which is one of the reasons I started my gallery. But if we're asking why to collect work from women artists, I think the question for me is really, why do you collect in the first place? Are you thinking about gender with your collection? And if so, definitely explore that. Every collection has its own identity, but really connect with work because it says something to you and it speaks to you and you love it. Everyone's collecting for different reasons. Some people are collecting for an investment, but collecting from women artists is a great investment. It's just about the artist. It's very misogynistic to say, well, I don't want to collect a painting from this woman artist because it's not going to appreciate in the same way as a male artist, which is the thought for a lot of people, unfortunately. And that's a systemic belief that we've been taught over the years. So it's really about unlearning and knowing that regardless of who you collect, there's a potential for it to appreciate or not. But is your collection about buying work that appreciates, or is your collection about buying work that tells a story that reflects within your home, that you can relate to, that you see yourself in, that you want your kids to look at? I know a collector who has dedicated his entire collection to teaching his children their Black history, which is really, he's become just a great collector in general and someone really admired in the industry. But again, just really, I think the question for me is less about why to collect a woman artist, but why do you collect in general? And know that you're supporting a community that needs it when you are supporting a woman artist. We need the support, you know? Yeah, I mean, we need the support. It's just knowing where to find it because it is tough.
Right.
It is.
I will always say it's collecting women artists isn't charity. It's impact investing. It's investing in something that will create a world that you want to see. And I think that's true for any socially based collecting strategy. Is going to be, art is this essential thing that is a reflection of our world. It's a reflection of what we value, who we value, what expression we value. So you investing in that, it's like investing in green energy. You want a world that uses solar power. You want a world that values the identity of these artists.
And that's why what we're doing as well is we want to be the gallery that when you visit 50, you walk in to Gillian Jason Gallery and you're going to collect a piece of art by women. You know what you can find. So it's for us, it's not so much about feminist art. It's about knowing that if you walk into the space, you will collect a piece of art by a woman, and it will be brilliant. That's really what it's about. It's about the best of art by women. So beyond that, then there are collectors from my banking background. I have a lot of friends who from corporate backgrounds say, is this a good investment? So for me, because I didn't have any sort of art world background, I started trying to break it down. And the things that are really important to me are, artists' CVs are sort of like their career and where they're going. So, is it their first show? Do you love their art? Are they in group shows? Are they going international? So you have to build a world for all these artists, and it's a lot of work to do. But the thing that I think is always important, as you said, you just have to buy what you love. And if you love it, I'm pretty sure someone else will too. And that's how a market for every artist is truly created.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to add to that point. When you brought up Faith Ringgold, it made me think, rest in peace, Faith Ringgold, by the way. When she emerged, she was the first and only woman a part of Spiral, which was a very famous artist collective, mainly male dominated. And Faith Ringgold did not get any real appreciation until the 2000s, 2010s, but really fairly recently, towards the end of her life. And if you think of when she started exhibiting for the first time, people weren't taking her as seriously as they were taking her peers. If you look at the value of a Faith Ringgold right now, it's beyond. So does it appreciate? Are women artists making work that is of value? Look at Faith Ringgold. Look at so many amazing artists that didn't really get their shine until the end of their lives. I think that there's an opportunity for this generation of patrons, artists, gallerists, curators to really change that narrative moving forward. We have access to social media now. It's not like you can't see what an artist in Germany is making at just, a click of a few buttons. Exactly. Yeah. So Faith Ringel didn't have that. You had to be where she was to know her name. We're not in that space anymore. We have way more access to information. We have access to pricing from galleries all over the world. It's just a lot of opportunity now to change the norm. So
I'm actually going to just riff back off that. Yeah. It's really interesting that you say that, because my mind also goes to a place where I'm going, whoa, too much choice. So the other way that I then begin to, advise collectors on what to collect is also building a relationship with galleries. Do you like the gallerist? Do you like their program? Do you appreciate what they're trying to achieve? And that's why you're saying, you have collectors that really buy into and support your mission.
Yeah.
And it's really important when collecting the art by women or women of color and femmes and so on, that you have rapport with the gallerist, where they're taking that artist next. And that's the other thing about collecting, because yes, you could, go on social media and just buy something from Germany, but also there's so much to it and so much being said in the art world that you have to try and, gallerists almost act as guides, I find, to your taste, and every 100%. Gallery is a different brand, so you can find your own fit as well.
Right? Yeah, I love that you said that. It's very true. I think that every gallery has their own identity and their own reputations, and their artists are aligned with that. So there are some galleries that have really great reputations for working with emerging artists and building them up and really helping them grow their career into something huge. And there are galleries that have different reputations. So really knowing what cohort is what has really, I think, also influenced me. Like, my favorite gallery when I moved to New York is Jack Shaman Gallery. It's still my favorite gallery outside of myself. And I interned there, and I love the way they treat their artists. I love their program. It's just a real family-oriented business. And for them to be so blue chip and so successful, but to operate in such a warm, internal way, you don't really see that. I kind of was naive and blessed to have that as one of my first professional art experiences, because I went in thinking like, every gallery is treating their artists with love and support, and that's just simply not the case. But yeah, I think that I really appreciate you saying that, because it really does start with who is guiding these artists and how are they elevating as time goes by.
I think what both of you are saying about reputation of galleries, I think, is also very, we'll get you, is very, is true across the board. I mean, if we, talking to I'm sure there are many different identities of people here, collectors, gallerists, etc. But your reputation is so essential. The art world is a people business. Your reputation will become known. So make it a good one. And also, if your taste in collecting will become known. I think once you start buying work, gallerists will start sending you things. So if you have a very specific vision, you can quickly make your way in the world. So I think that I think that's one of the most important pieces of beginning to collect, is that you don't have another chance to, you have to treat gallerists well, but you especially have to treat artists well.
Yeah, for sure. Because we do talk amongst us.
Yeah, everyone talks. Yeah. We had a question. How do galleries want to be approached by artists?
So for me, I am always looking. I'm always looking at art. And many times the artists that I work with, the majority of them, I have reached out. There are many artists that also send me submissions. Some I've loved and it's turned into a work relationship. Some has not been the right fit for me. Some have been, I felt indifferent, but my plate was so full, I might not have gotten back quick enough with a response. So I think the best way to approach a gallery is just one, be on a human level, with the hello, my name is, because a lot of people, that's not a thing anymore. People barely even greet anymore. They're just like, here's my resume, make it happen.
Right. Yeah.
But I think for me personally, I'd rather be approached just with kindness and understanding if it doesn't turn into a partnership. Because I'm a very open person. I want to hear from people, but not every single submission is going to be something I exhibit. So I think just approaching just with kindness and understanding. And, I love, like, for example, if someone's done their homework on my gallery and they're like, I love this show, I love that you work with artists that make work about X, Y, and Z, that means a lot to me versus just, hey, here's the paintings, let's do something.
Yeah, I think I really resonate with that. I think vision of the artist is also important. It's really difficult though, because we get so many really kind emails about our program from artists and submissions that it takes time to respond to everyone. And like you said, we plan 12 months in advance. So what we end up doing a lot of the time is taking portfolios onto our roster, and then when we think there's a good fit, then we'll get back in touch with the artist. But I do think with artists, it's so important, just time and time again. I think a little bit like finding a job, it's about finding the right fit for you, the right family. So I would always say it's just about resilience. Keep going, keep putting your CV and portfolio forwards. Yeah.
I think that as we touched on in the beginning, being the only galleries of your type, it's heartbreaking to not be able to represent more people and to have the bandwidth. So it's just more evidence that there need to be more spaces that are dedicated.
Yeah.
We're running so quickly. We already do 10 shows a year because we're trying to
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's tiring. So it's almost one every 4 weeks. We're trying to extend it to 6 to 8 weeks. It gives us a little bit of a break, a little bit more planning time for each artist, because we want to give the same curatorial approach and interest to every single artist. We're a small team, so that's a lot, but there are just so many fantastic artists that we want to work with and provide a platform for.
Yeah.
So I can see how difficult it is. You've got so many submissions and so many brilliant people, so it's hard. Yeah.
I'd love to talk. I mean, this is maybe more for my edification, but I would love to know about the collectors that you do have. Do they primarily skew a certain male, female, certain identities? I would love to know, how much support for women, how diverse the support for women is.
Yeah.
If at all.
Yeah. I am blessed to say that I have a pretty diverse collector base with a lot of Black women collectors, but I have collectors of all identities, genders, and the age range. My youngest collector is probably 24, and I have collectors that are in their 80s, that are family collectors, and they're collecting for their grandchildren, from all over. Some are from New York, some are from Baltimore, where I'm from, some are from outside of the US. I've met a lot of collectors online because since I have a nomadic model, I don't have a permanent space, and I am oftentimes showing work on social media, on platforms like Artsy, and connecting with people that I have not met in person yet, or I'll meet them later down the line, and they've collected a number of works for me. And we were talking about access earlier, and access to more information through the internet. That has helped me so much as an entrepreneur, because I think if I was limited to just New York's collector base, it would be way harder, because there's so many galleries here. There's so much art to see. And I'm blessed to have a pretty diverse collector base, and a collector base that's full of minorities that really resonate with the artists that I'm working with.
Right. Yeah, ours is also quite diverse. It's also quite international. Europe, Asia, America as well, South Africa, Nigeria. So we've got a really international collector base. Funnily enough, though, it's 50-50 on gender, which is really interesting. Um, which I really like, actually. I love working with just interested collectors on the whole. And the thing about our program is the men who collect from us appreciate our mission, but also they appreciate the art, which is more to the point. And it's the same with what you're doing. Yes, it's about giving underrepresented voices a platform, but also it is the best of art by those underrepresented voices.
Yeah.
So all of the collectors, no matter their background, appreciate the program.
Yeah, for sure.
Important.
That's important. I think that also speaks to what Hall said earlier, where we're not doing charity. One, we're entrepreneurs, we're serious businesswomen, and we're not just showing work because of the sake of showing work. It's way too expensive to do that. If I could, if I had the resources to have that kind of program, I would, because why gatekeep? But at the same time, I'm a young entrepreneur. Every nickel, every penny counts. And I'm thankful to show artists that are really making cutting edge work that is really incredible, skillful work. And I only show work that I have a visceral reaction to. So, yeah.
Important.
Yeah.
I will say, I understand why people think Less Than Half is a nonprofit, but again, I think entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship is about seeing a whole in a market, but also seeing it as a way to make the world better. And I do believe, we do live in the United States. It is a capitalist society. It is functioning with the economy in the background always. And if we can work with that and create a world that is better, and it's a sustainable business model, then what a great world to live in.
I agree. I agree.
I think that I think the world relies on women a lot to fix its problems. So we may as well run great businesses while trying to do that.
100%.
Instead of doing it for free.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So maybe I know we wanted to maybe open it up for some questions if there are any, or I'm sure we could talk for a really long time.
Yeah, we could
otherwise.
talk forever. Yeah.
Questions?
Any questions? Not so much. Do you have any questions?
Do I? Are any of y'all collectors or artists? Cool. Nice. Oh, nice. Love.
Yeah, I find that I'm
Very
both
cool.
gallerist and collector, not artist. I can draw you a really good stick man, but beyond that, it's a big no. Just an appreciator. Yeah.
Oh, I think we have a question. What was the question?
Helping other younger gallerists. You're both already young gallerists.
We need all the help we
yeah.
can get.
Yeah, already young gallerists. I'm finding that that a lot of more established galleries post-pandemic are really opening their doors. Actually, they're looking for younger artists to represent. So they're really happy to work with younger galleries. At the same time, it's really important, something that my mother taught me, don't gatekeep. It's what you said.
Yeah.
It's about gatekeep. It's about, going up the ladder and not taking it with you. It's about helping the next generation to also come up. So I think it's really important to build a community higher and lower than yourself, because the other thing is, the amount you go up, you see the same people on the way down, and that it's always important to be kind and supportive to everyone.
Yeah, I see some of the biggest galleries, that are showing support for younger galleries. I think that it's one of the many examples that those bigger galleries are going to be sustainable for a long time. For example, David Zwirner has Platform, which it's called Platform, and it is an online platform that supports emerging galleries like mine. And David Zwirner is one of the biggest blue chip galleries in the world. So to be in alignment with their program on any level was a huge spotlight on my small growing gallery. And we highlighted an artist on their platform. We had 4 works, sold 3 of them, and it just put a lot of eyes, brand new eyes, on my business and on my artist roster, that came from the support of an entity like David Zwirner, which that gallery does not have to be collaborating. They're at a place in their history and their career where they don't have to really show any support to any other gallery. So it's a choice at that point, and it's impacted me in a really positive way and other young galleries that I know that have been on that platform as well. So I think when we do have opportunities to have support from more established galleries like that, it's a huge deal for us. Because I mean, that's a male-owned gallery. It's a white male-owned gallery. They have tons of power. They've been around for over a decade, and they have a lot of influence on the market. There are some galleries that have make or break power when they show vocal support for anyone. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And that goes back to, what you're saying, that collaboration and is essential for any sort of success.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that you said, Millie, really sort of made me think that there is a ton of interest in young artists, and it's a really wonderful thing. But it's also it's very loud in here. It's also so important to think about an artist's full career and not be just focusing on them at Faith Ringgold's age, or the next hot young artist. That there's this middle period of an artist's career where they need more support, because they go under the radar a little bit.
Absolutely. It's exactly how you said. A lot of artists are fated at the beginning of their career, then they drop off, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Oh, I just discovered Louise Bourgeois."
Right.
Right. So
and a lot of these artists live till 100 years old, which I think is sort of like an FU. I'm not gonna, you just represented me, but I'm gonna hang on for as long as I can.
Exactly. But it's really interesting because we've been working a lot with the Tate Britton in London for their first all-female group exhibition that they just put on, Women in Revolt. Something about the Tate program that really interests me, in fact, is that they spotlight, they have a space for emerging artists, and then most of their spotlights after that are for very well-established artists, and there's no mid-career slot. So it's really interesting, because I find the same with galleries that I do with the biggest institutions. There's a drop-off for women at the middle of their careers. And women, it's like you said before, women are carers, they're having children and so on, and you do need the extra support. So something that is really important is providing that career longevity and being able to support the artist throughout their practice. I think any artist, a lot like writers or creatives in general, you have periods where you create a lot and then a lull. You can't just be on all the time as someone who needs to understand the world, take it in, regurgitate it in a way that makes sense to you. So it's important. Representation, I think, is a really important part of our business models. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's important because you need to be able to help manage and grow the artist at every stage.
Yeah, I agree. I think of representation a lot, and I also think of growth and a journey. And when I first started, I mainly worked with young emerging artists that were in their 20s, because I'm in my 20s, and I was still in no way I'm still proving myself. I also don't represent any artists yet, because I want to prove myself to them as a young gallerist. I've only had my gallery for 3 years now, and I really wanted to show that I had the capability, versus just being like, "Hey, I'm about to start this gallery. Can I represent you full time?" I think that would be a little too not entitled, but just I wasn't ready yet.
Right.
And I wanted to show my capabilities in the relationship, and also be in the relationship with those artists for some time before, putting a ring on it,
Right.
which is representation. That's what you're doing. And yeah, I've opened it since, where I'm working with artists that I'm a huge fan of. For example, Adama Delphine Falundu is an amazing multimedia artist that I'm blessed to work with. She's shown at National Portrait Gallery. She's had museum solos. She's just an amazing artist who is older than me and allowed me to exhibit her work, which was a huge deal for me. So after some time, I started being comfortable. It's like I wanted to come out the gate working with my generation because I understood my generation. But I really wanted to test myself as a young entrepreneur and show that I can work with older generations as well, because I'm a curator first, I think my curatorial work enters the room before my age does. So
and you'll grow with these artists. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll be with them as your career grows, their careers grow, and that is a really special thing to say. I knew you when.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, that's lovely. Yeah.
My own taste, I'd like to see the artist in the work. I don't want to see perfection. I want to see movement, stroke. I want to see space. I want to see them
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
That's what moves me.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be a number of things for me. It could be the energy in the work, the mood, or it could be something I've never seen before that is giving me an original experience. And the reaction I look for is I want to feel like I can't think about anything else but what I'm looking at in that moment. Because I think about a lot of things throughout the day, and if I look at if a artwork like arrests me in a way where I just am just really in that moment with it, that's how I know I am now a fan of this artist. Yeah, it's just like a very strong, passionate reaction that I look for. But it could be a number of those things. Like if there's a really heavy energy in the work, I could respond to that. But if it's also just something I've never seen before that really took my breath away, for example, I love monochromatic paintings, but I've never seen any painting or figurative painting that looks like there's an artist, Jewel Ham, that I'm blessed to work with. She makes these monochromatic paintings of interior scenes of Black women, Black families, Black couples, and the entire palette will be either ruby red or hot pink. And it's on the skin, it's on the figure, it's on the ground, it's on the interior, it's on the food that's shown in the paintings. It's like the subject matter is very maximalist, but the color palette is very monochromatic. And I've never seen anything done like that. And it's so hypnotizing. And when I asked her about it, she said she thinks about what it would look like to have your blood boiling and to have the red rise to the skin. And the idea of being a Black woman is to be frustrated. Being a Black woman in America is to be frustrated and having your blood boiling all the time, but also bloodline connection, that is a communal experience between many Black women. So seeing the blood, like your skin is no longer brown in her paintings. It's red, it's pink, it's purple sometimes. It just really took and she was like 22 when I met her, making these works fresh out of college, and I'm still a fan to this day. She's very relatable, but there was just so much to explore upon my first visual of her work.
That's the thing, actually. It has to be, for me, it's not any particular style per se. It can be abstract, it can be figurative, but what draws me in is something that is visually resonant, but also intellectually important.
Yeah.
So obviously on first take, I have to be drawn to the work. I have to have a connection with it. But then beyond that, when you get to know the artist and learn from them, it's also about you know, do I resonate with what they're saying? Sometimes actually the worst thing is to not feel anything at all. Even if
100%.
I can love it, or I can really have a strong negative reaction to it, but I still appreciate it as a piece of art because it's made me feel. And I think that's key as well.
I agree. The worst feeling is definitely to feel nothing.
Right, nothing.
Yeah.
I think this is a great subject to end on. I think, but for me, I love tactility in work. I love process. I love material. I love textile work for that reason because it's so apparent on its surface how it was made. So yeah, I think that's, to me, it's art is a physical thing, and the more it can remind me that I'm a physical being in a physical world, is the better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that will conclude our talk. Of course, Millie's gallery is here, so please go check it out. And then, of course, every work of art that you see in this space that Loft Projects curated, as well as a couple things over here with Less Than Half, are all women artists as well. So please take some time and sit with them. You're totally free to stay here, read some books, chill out, drink your coffee, whatever it is. And thank you to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yay.
That was good.
Nice.
That was great.
That was so interesting.